How's it going, you guys? Calico here. Welcome back to the channel. This is the second video in our 31-part video series that we're going to be doing throughout the month of October, where we are going to be reviewing 31 different unique horror movies. In the first video, obviously, we reviewed Peeping Tom. It was an alright movie. I implore everybody to go back and watch the video. I hope that you guys did. And for everybody that did, I appreciate you very much. On to the next one. This one was David Cronenberg's Scanners. And for anybody who watched the intro video where we went over all 31 movies, you would have known that this list was kind of David Cronenberg / Brandon Cronenberg themed. This is his first movie on the list. He's getting in very early, which is good to see, early influence on the list. And going in, I honestly thought this was going to be a much different movie. You know, David Cronenberg has obviously done really good sci-fi horror movies before. The only movie I had seen going into this challenge was The Fly, obviously an amazing sci-fi horror movie, and obviously also a remake, though, from, I don't know who directed the original, obviously it was starring Vincent Price, though, very, very good movie. Two completely different movies, The Fly, not to get too off topic. But instead of being that sci-fi horror movie that I expected, Scanners honestly wasn't much of a horror movie at all. Completely different than what I was thinking going into it. Scanners is much more of a cat and mouse kind of game where you have these group of people who are called scanners who have these telepathic abilities, and then another group of people who are trying to hunt them and eliminate them. And throughout the movie, you see them, you know, like I said, very cat and mouse. They're in hiding, they're being hunted by this group of people, but obviously, you know, with telepathic abilities, they're able to defend themselves pretty well. Now, right from the very beginning of the movie, we're introduced to Cameron Vale, who is the main character of the movie. And he himself is a scanner, as you would probably expect by the title of the movie. And you see right from the start, he has absolutely no clue how to use his powers at all. He's clueless. He's a complete schizo, to be honest with you, just based on his mannerisms and how he's acting. And you see that he actually is staring at this woman who's talking about him, and he accidentally, you know, gives her a fucking seizure right in the middle of the mall, and, you know, brings all the attention onto himself, basically. This giant commotion that he's causing gets the attention of Dr. Paul Ruth, who's basically kind of looking for him anyway, because he's looking for different scanners. And as Cameron is trying to get away, they get him with a sleeping dart in his hand, and despite his absolute best efforts to get away, they absolutely are able to catch his dumbass. Now from here, Ruth sits Cameron down and is basically explaining to him that he is one of 200-something scanners that exist in the entire world. They're trying to go through and recruit as many scanners as they possibly can to the good side against a man named Daryl Revok, who's leading a group of malevolent scanners, just picking out a bunch of their own kind, killing them off. Kind of like Apocalypse in the X-Men, you know what I mean? Trying to kill off other mutants. It doesn't make any sense. Recruit mutants to kill mutants. It makes no sense. And he also gives them this drug called ephemeral. And what this basically does is it subdues all of those loud voices in his head that are not letting him control his scanner abilities. It kind of makes all those go away, helps him concentrate. You know, it's kind of like scanner Adderall, if you would. This next scene is our first bit of that David Cronenberg body horror that we're trying to look for in these movies, where we see Revok actually infiltrate a marketing event and fucking, I wish I could show this on YouTube, but I don't think I can in this video, absolutely explodes the head of one of these Consec security guards that are here. And at this point, I'm going to be honest with you guys, the movie really slows down to a drastic halt. And that's why I'm really saying it's not a horror movie at all. This is a cat and mouse back and forth game. It's kind of like War Games with slight body horror, because there's not a whole lot of it. You get what we obviously just talked about there with the head explosion, and then at the very end of the movie, if you're still awake by the end, you get a bit more. We'll talk about that then. There are two scenes in the middle of this movie that I kind of want to point out and talk about the most. The first of the two being where he goes to talk to the artist gentleman who he believes to be a scanner, obviously. And I think that the symbolism in this scene is really cool, where obviously he's trying to, you know, they're scanners. They get into people's heads, and this artist has built a big giant head, and they walk inside of it, and they're talking inside of it. It's really good symbolism, you know what I mean? He's trying to get inside of his head. They're literally inside of a giant head. But obviously their meeting is cut short by a group of people trying to assassinate them. And I just love how they keep forgetting that these scanners have telepathic abilities. They have, you know, psychic abilities. They can defend themselves very well. And we see that both in these scenes that I'm going to show you. I just really like the symbolism in the scene a whole lot. I want to talk about it a little bit extra. And now the next scene, I think, is what really highlights a big problem I have with the movie. And it's a scene where you see a bunch of assassins getting their guns and their equipment ready to bust into the room under a group of scanners that are performing, a ritual of sorts. Very suspenseful scene. It's actually a pretty good scene where they're grabbing all their weapons, and you know what's about to happen. You know they're about to bust into this room. Based on what's happened previously in the movie, these scanners are really no joke. They're nothing to mess with. You know what I mean? Guns don't necessarily. Obviously, guns will kill them, but getting the shot off, not being interfered with in any way, isn't necessarily an easy task to complete. But then they bust into the room finally, and all that happens is the scanners stand up, slam them against the wall, and then set them on fucking fire. It really is kind of a problem in your movie whenever every single time that the characters interact with any sort of difficult situation or issue, they can just blow right by it because they're telepaths. And now the last thing I want to talk about in this movie is a scene from the end of the movie where a fucking low-rate, dollar store, off-brand Jack Nicholson gives us some of the best body horror that we get in the entire movie, where you see him versus Cameron Vale just going back and forth with each other, and you see the veins of each other's arms coming out, and there's blood squirting out of the veins. I'm going to show a little bit of it as much as I can. It's not as gruesome necessarily as the head explosion earlier, which was just very brief, very in your face, very gory, very quick. It's just like a scene back and forth. It lasts for about a minute. It's actually pretty good. It's nothing to save the movie or write home about, really. It doesn't make the movie great at all. It's still a very... I cannot recommend this movie very much, to be honest with you. It's very slow. It's not a horror movie at all. This genuinely is not a horror movie. I hate that it's even described that way, to be honest with you. Now, for a guy named David Cronenberg, whose signature style is body horror, you know what I mean? Amazing prosthetics, great practical, real effects. I can't really say that this movie hits home. It's not very great in that sense. You do get some here and there, but for a movie that's about, people telepathically controlling other people, you would imagine there'd be way more they could do. At least more head explosions than just one. At least some, potentially making heads larger, maybe not exploding, but I'm not even too sure, 100% sure what they could do. Just better than what we did get. We only really got to see two major scenes in the entire movie. Whereas if I'm thinking about a movie like The Thing, if I'm thinking about a movie like, even The Stuff, those are movies that have subtle body horror, but you imagine them to have subtle body horror, but then you sit down and you actually watch them, and they have way more body horror than this movie does. Ultimately, to wrap up my thoughts about Scanners, I'd be giving this a 5 out of 10. It's not a great movie at all, and I really expect more from Cronenberg's future movies, especially from Shivers. And it's kind of a bummer that we've already seen The Fly, because that's probably his highest regarded movie. But regardless, I'm really excited for the other ones going forward. I think that they're going to be much better than this one. I just don't think this movie has a lot to offer, especially in the horror genre. It's not scary in any aspect anywhere in the movie. You will literally not be scared for one single moment in this entire movie. It's much more of a sci-fi thriller kind of movie. For the time it released, it's kind of weird. You would have expected a movie like this, honestly, to come out more in the 90s. This really is an Arnold Schwarzenegger style movie. I could totally see Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the lead role in this movie 100%. I know it sounds kind of weird because it's a mental movie, but man, you think about movies like Total Recall. I really think that this movie fits way more in the 90s than it does in the 80s. But irregardless, I'd give this movie about a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's super great. I can't recommend it all that well. Next up, we have, I believe, Dagon, which is a movie that I honestly am really, really excited about, that I was talking about in my the introduction video that we did, talking about that was one of the more excited ones that I had on the list. So I can't wait for the next video, you guys. I can't wait to sit down, watch the movie, talk about it with you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good time watching the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and make sure that you click the link in the description so you can follow along with the movie list and what we're watching. Have a good one, you guys. Thank you so much.